This podcast is brought to you by North Carolina's electric cooperatives.
This is NC Spin, an unrehearsed discussion on issues of interest to North Carolinians. Now, here is your moderator, Tom Campbell.
Welcome to this special edition of NC Spin. Agriculture is North Carolina's #1 economic contributor, but few understand how much under siege it possibly is in this state. Well, we're going to devote this entire show to the subject of agriculture. We want to look at where this state stands, what problems we face, and what the future looks like. To do this, we've assembled one of the finest panels I think I've ever worked with. They include, to my far right, Nelle Hotchkiss, the Chief Operating Officer and Senior Vice President of the North Carolina Electric Cooperatives. To my far left, Rich Linton, who is the Dean of the North Carolina State University College of Agriculture and Life Sciences. My immediate right is our Agriculture Commissioner, Steve Troxler, and my immediate left is Larry Wooten, who's the President of the North Carolina Farm Bureau. We'll begin our uninterrupted debate after these brief messages from our underwriters.
They're up before dawn and work late into the night. They believe in hard work, family, and doing the right thing. They stand up for their communities when others walk away. They're good people who just want a fair shake. They are farmers. At North Carolina Farm Bureau, we are proud to stand with our farmers.
Today's tools make you a real DIYer, and as a member of an electric cooperative, you have lots of valuable tools to help you do it yourself in controlling your home energy use and budget, leaving you free to be Dad.
Finding a North Carolina solution for covering the uninsured will reduce all our health care costs and lead to a healthier North Carolina. Let's find a solution for covering the uninsured. Visit careforcarolina.com.
Production underwriting provided by the North Carolina Academy of Family Physicians. Family Physicians, your trusted healthcare advisor for life.
We're filming this special edition of NC Spin at the North Carolina Farm Bureau Leadership Conference. We're glad to be participating in it. Let's get started. I want to start by talking about where is agriculture today. Economist Mike Walden from North Carolina State says it's an $87 billion contributor to our economy, 730,000 jobs, 17% of our labor force. Commissioner Troxler, how would you describe the state of agriculture today?
I think everybody knows we're coming out of a disastrous 2018, so we're in recovery mode right now. When you put Hurricane Florence, Tropical Storm Matthew, wet, dry, tariffs, trade wars, low commodity prices, it was a disaster. So we've got to recover now.
Larry, as the commissioner says, we've had several bad years in a row. Farm bankruptcies are at a modern day high. Today we've got 47,000 farms in our state. That's 100,000 fewer than we had back in the 60s. 8.1 million acres under cultivation. The average farm size is 169 acres. We've lost 680,000 acres of farmland. I've often said that farmers have to be the biggest optimists in the world.
Well, certainly farmers are not averse to risk at all. It's a very risky business. We heard a little while ago that, you're getting less than 1%, almost less than 1% on return on the investment. What other business is going to do that? Farmers are risk takers, and certainly, but I think our farmers understand that risk going in by and large. We've been through, as the commissioner said, we've been through the toughest year in 2018 that we've seen in many, many years here in North Carolina.
Nelle, there's a really interesting interdependence relationship between our electric cooperatives and agriculture in our state. How would you explain it?
Well, the electric cooperatives serve rural North Carolina, and certainly agriculture is a major industry and economic driver in our communities. We also understand that for the average farmer or value-added manufacturing, input costs or energy costs are a very important factor that have to be managed. So we want to work very closely with the ag community to ensure that we're doing everything we can to keep those costs in line.
Dean Linton, CALS, the College of Agriculture and Life Science, second largest college at our largest university in North Carolina. Are students still interested in going into agriculture? I mean, after the picture that the commissioner painted, it's kind of bleak right now. We got students lining up wanting to go into agriculture.
I want to turn this conversation a little bit to the glass half full. I think in North Carolina, it is the #1 economic sector. We're growing rapidly. We've had some difficult years, but this is a resilient and adaptive industry that we've seen for years that will grow and move forward. One of the things that we need to do is we need to do a better job of attracting students to have an interest in agriculture and to be able to educate students and parents and guidance counselors that agriculture is a whole lot more than pigs and cows and a picket fence and a red barn. There's all sorts of facets that are involved in agriculture. National statistics show that there's about 70,000 new jobs every year in agriculture and life sciences.
Wow.
And we're only producing 35,000. We've got a long ways to go.
Commissioner, we talked some about some of the issues. Regulation, particularly regulation coming from the federal government. Where do we stand with that? Is the regulatory load lighter, heavier, about the same as it was when you first got elected?
Well, I can tell you that regulation costs money. Any additional regulation that you put on a business or a farm, there's a cost associated with it. I've seen it ebb and flow since I've been commissioner. The Waters of the U.S. rule, I think that was a huge thing for us to see what's happened today with that. But regulation can put us out of business and will very quickly.
Certainly our legislature here in North Carolina in the last several sessions of North Carolina General Assembly have recognized that there are costs that farmers particularly can't pass on. And so we've had several farm acts that deal with regulations that certainly impact our farmers and lessen that load for them.
And Nelle, one of the things that impresses me, particularly as we're looking at the rural picture, which of course is where most of our agriculture is infrastructure. Access to health care, educational opportunities, broadband internet service. All of these things play into the success of our agribusiness community in rural areas.
Right. There really are two aspects for infrastructure that support the rural communities and ag. One of those being general infrastructure to ensure resiliency. So when we have the natural disasters that we experienced in 2018, how can you work with your utility providers to get back up as quickly as possible? The second thing is also the need for broadband, high-speed, affordable internet in rural areas to support the economic drivers that ag and farming bring to our communities.
Dean, we've talked about some of the issues. What does the future look like for agriculture? I'm sure y'all are looking long-term at agriculture.
I think the future is bright. I think we need to think of the grand global challenges of agriculture. We've got to find a way to feed a growing population and to be able to feed the world. And I think North Carolina can be a solution to those challenges. If you look at the state of North Carolina, we're unique. We're one of the most diversified states in the country. We have different climates. We have different soil types. We have a phenomenal partnership with our commodity groups, with universities, with the North Carolina Department of Agriculture. And I think the goal in moving forward is to be able to answer the question, how can we build on these partnerships, take advantage of the assets that we have in North Carolina, and be a part of the solution?
Steve, we're told that the average farm feeds 154 people. We're growing at an incredibly fast rate, not only in our state, but so far as this region is concerned. What's the challenge? How are we going to be able to grow enough food to feed our people in the future?
I'm convinced we can do it. Not only in North Carolina, in the nation, the world, feeding 9 billion people, that's a task. But agricultural research and money invested in research will get us there. The average return on investment in agricultural research is $19 for $1 invested. So we can't stop agricultural research, and Think about what we've been through in agriculture. The weather is basically a constant. It's always too wet. It's always too dry.
Whatever it is, it ain't right.
It ain't right. It ain't never right. But we've learned to deal with some of that. So that's a constant we deal with. Government regulation is always a part of it. But agricultural research has got us not only to the 154 that you talked about. The newest figure is 165.
Wow.
So but that pales in comparison what we've got to do in the future. So it's ag research that'll get us there.
Because we're something like 10 million now, and we're going to be up 2025. We're going to be 12 or 13 million people.
Tom, I think our farmers are resilient, but I'm tired of hearing the word resilient sometimes. We are resilient, but what our farmers need now is profitability.
Yeah.
You can't grow industry, and we are the third most diverse state. The future is bright, but right now our farmers in this state, commodity prices, we've lost 53% net farm income since 2013. Our farmers need profitability. We'll take care of the rest, but you cannot beat profitability in this business, or any business has got to rely on profitability of our farmers to grow. Some of you were talking about feeding themselves and 150 farmers. I had a farmer tell me the other day, how was he supposed to feed 156 other people when he couldn't feed himself with the levels of prices of some of the commodities and where they are. So it's a real challenge.
And you told me the story of young people graduating from NC State wanting to come back into the family farm, and the older generation said, we can't support you.
Well, it's the way it is. I mean, obviously, there are a lot of our young people that want to go and come back in agriculture, and certainly it is a good industry. We want them back in the industry of agriculture, but there's got to be, as I said, there's got to be profitability, and there's got to be room for that family member to come back so that everybody can survive.
Rich, one of the things that the commissioner was talking about was innovation in crops and the future. I know y'all do a tremendous amount of research at NC State. Crop diversity. Tell us what's online. Tell us what you're working on. What we might be looking forward to as crops of the future. Crops with higher profit margins, like Larry was talking about.
Well, to Larry's point, we need to think about those new things that we can do in moving forward in order to be able to drive the economy and create jobs. There's two big initiatives that collectively all of us are working on. One is the North Carolina Plant Sciences Initiative. The North Carolina Plant Sciences Initiative is all about building better crops, more productive crops with less inputs, different crops that are not currently grown today, in order to be able to provide solutions.
And we got
farmers.
that new facility from the Connect NC bonds.
We do. This September we will start the groundbreaking for a $160 million facility, the North Carolina Plant Sciences
new research center too that's coming online for you
brand new
folks.
science center.
One of the bright things about this plant sciences facility, in North Carolina, I think we have an obligation to retain the best and the brightest students that we have here to help us. And then certainly with this type of facility, we want to attract from other places the brightest and best students that want to come here and do postgraduate work to help us. I mean, that's what's going to take, as the commissioner said, that's what's going to take us from $87 billion a year to 100 to 120 is good people come in here to help us.
And Larry, we're already seeing that. We're seeing with recruitment of faculty, we're getting much more faculty that are applying, much stronger pools, and much stronger faculty that are wanting to come because of the plant science facility. Better students, more industry, better faculty, better research. That's that 19-to-1 return on investment.
Good news. Back on the farm, Nelle. High-speed internet. You can't run any business. You can't operate these days without high-speed broadband internet connections, and yet many in our rural areas don't have it. You, through the North Carolina Electric Cooperatives, are partnering in a new initiative. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we're partnering with River Street, which is a subsidiary of Wilkes Telephone, a telephone cooperative, to be able to dual purpose the fiber that we already have out to our facilities and use that as backhaul and allow River Street then to move forward in providing affordable broadband in unserved or underserved areas. But I think going back to the conversation on innovation and enabling technology, for the farming community to have the opportunity to have success in the economic areas, that we're talking about, we really do need for not only that research, but then to actually deploy that innovation at the farm or in a value-added manufacturing or agriculture concept. So that's equally as important. Broadband becomes a huge catalyst to make that happen.
And the natural gas, the access to health care is just a major issue. And Larry, I know one of the things that Farm Bureau has been really working hard for are the association health plans.
Well, certainly.
Where's that going? What's going on?
Well, certainly it's something we continue to work on. We've done something a little more innovative here with a multiple employer welfare arrangement, a MIWA. It's certainly a small, but it's an effort. You know, for a lot of our rural people, self-employed, small business owners, that, you know, the cost of health care is just prohibitive. When you have to pay $2,800 to $3,000 a month for a family, that just saps a lot of the spendable income that you could put back in your business, and it's certainly a real cost to our farmers and
thousands
farm
of people in North Carolina, small business people particularly,
they were promised that they could keep their grandfather clause. That was taken away from them, and certainly they're not. They on the Affordable Care Act, they're not eligible for the subsidy. And so it just puts that small group, a lot of our Farm Bureau members, businesses, in a real bind. They're not covered by an employer health group unless we have many of our farmers who have one spouse or the other working off the farm just to pay for health insurance.
So we're talking about infrastructure access, health care access. Commissioner, one of the things that obviously is necessary is credit. What's the credit market like for our farmers?
I think I would characterize it as probably tight right now. Certainly, I don't think it's to the point that it was in the early '80s when we went through the real high interest crisis.
That was the real bellwether.
It was awful. Larry and I both know that from experience. But I think by the disaster program that we've been able to put together in North Carolina, the amount that we will be able to help the farmers will help with that credit situation. And that's what it's designed to do. We can't make farmers whole, but with the money the legislature allocated, we can help them build a bridge to the future, and that's what we're trying to do.
Well, let's talk about that, because there was, what was it, $240 million that was allocated to help our farm and aquaculture industry in North Carolina. How is that getting to where it needs to get? Is it getting there fast enough?
Well, it can never get there fast enough, but as of today, we're through 95.5% of all of the 7,000 applications that we got. The checks have gone out. We will kind of settle up, so to speak, after this first round, and we hope to put another round of checks out later this spring.
Certainly, I can't thank the North Carolina General Assembly and our Commissioner of Agriculture for going to bat to help farmers, and when we really needed it. I mean, we had 3 years of basically no crops and low prices, and that was a real savior to a lot of people. As the Commissioner says, it's not going to put everybody back to where they were, but it sends a right signal out there to our farmers.
No question about that. Dean Linton, you've talked a lot about value-added food production, and yes. I know that this is one of your initiatives at NC State that you talk. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, this is a partnership with NC State University, the North Carolina Department of Agriculture, many different commodity groups, the Department of Commerce, and the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina. It's about bringing a new way of agriculture forward to the state of North Carolina, taking advantage of the ingredients that we produce and converting those into value-added goods. And when you convert ingredients into value-added products, the return on investment to the economy is between 7 to 1 and 12 to 1. This is a $10 billion enhancement to the economy. And 50,000
We're getting
jobs.
A return on investment of $7 for every one we invest?
Let's take the easy example of a can of beans. In a can of beans, the beans might be worth 4 cents. The can and the label might be worth 11 cents. It's the people that put the beans in the can that are making the 50 or 60 cents. We'd like to grow the beans, make the cans, and put the beans in the can and make the profit.
And then transport.
That's right.
Yeah, but it looks like that, you know, as strong an agriculture base as we have in North Carolina, this would certainly make a lot of sense for us to be able to find some manufacturers to come in and work on that.
And we're geographically located between urban, major metropolitan areas to the north of us and to the south of us. So we're ideally suited.
This isn't hocus pocus. This is the result of a joint study that NC State and the department did on how do we get there. We're putting the facility at the Kannapolis campus. The dean and I think this is the best thing since sliced bread to attract food manufacturing to North Carolina.
Manufactured and sliced bread.
Yeah.
I mean, we can grow the raw commodities, but why do we want to continue to ship them out of state? There's economic
jobs for
development
other
here.
people.
But back to what Nelle said, you got to have the infrastructure. You got to have a good electric grid. You got to have internet. You got to have natural gas. These processing plants are not coming here without access to natural gas.
You've got to have transportation and you have to have a workforce.
Well, I was going to,
Right.
Nelle,
Trained
while
workforce.
we're talking about assets in North Carolina, we have a lot of assets here. We've got a great location right in the mid-Atlantic region of the country. We're close to, as Larry said, to population centers, great interstate highways, transportation modes, good networks with that. We've got a lot of the assets that we need to be able to grow.
Well, I think Larry's right. Natural gas is a very important part of a lot of these processes that are used in the food value-added industry. So I think that's a very important part that needs to be continued to be worked on. But I think also North Carolina's electric cooperatives, as well as other partners that are working in the economic development area, are very much looking at value-added processing as a strategy to grow our communities. And it makes a lot of sense. I mean, sweet potato would be one of those that I would highlight as a commodity that we're shipping a lot of those out, and we're very glad to do that. But to have those manufacturers here next to the commodity where it's being grown is something that is
So when
very
you're saying
important.
value added, you mean the manufacturing?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We very much are committed to that strategy, and the other part of it is bringing the innovation into those processes. What can we do to work very closely with either potential manufacturers or those that are already here, like Trinity Foods, for instance, and work with them in their processes to get those more efficient so they're getting more dollar for product going out the door.
And it doesn't stop just with North Carolina or the United States. 95% of the mouths to feed are going to be outside the borders of the U.S. So we've made great strides working with the ports.
Our exports,
Infrastructure, transportation infrastructure going to these ports. That is so important for the future.
Larry, I know you have been following very closely the Atlantic Coast Pipeline because it can be a very big asset, particularly in the eastern part of the state, the rural.
Well, certainly our
Where
farmers,
are we with that?
Well, it's been stopped right now, and certainly it's gotten, in this state, as you know, it's gotten bogged down in some political issues, but certainly laying all that aside, the need is there for that pipeline to come through North Carolina for a lot of reasons. Our farmers out there that are curing sweet potatoes, warming chickens, warming pigs, curing tobacco, that have to pay for LP are at a competitive disadvantage to those farming operations that have natural gas. We need that in addition to the value-added food processing that comes along. This has got to get done, and so that we get more taps and more distribution lines out across
Commissioner, you
main
knew
part.
I was not going to let this program end without talking about nuisance lawsuits.
I don't think there's a farm in the United States that could feel safe after what we've seen with these nuisance lawsuits. The last couple have gone better, and hopefully they'll be overturned at the Fourth Circuit, but it's scary. There's no question. What's a nuisance? I, as a farmer, have created dust, noise, had tractors and big equipment on the road, so describe to me what a nuisance is. But agriculture is a necessity, not a nuisance.
My next door neighbor's having parties at 12 o'clock at night. That's a nuisance.
That's a nuisance.
And we can't, Tom, we can't end this program without talking about the importance of trade to North Carolina agriculture. We've got to get this United States, Mexico, Canada agreement through Congress to replace NAFTA, tweak it. About every third row has got to be exported. we need these trade agreements to go through and some of these tariffs to be removed that will benefit the farmers in North Carolina and the United States.
Well, we could talk about agriculture. I hope that in this program we've been able to convey to our viewers the importance, some of the issues that are affecting agriculture, and perhaps some of the future for agriculture in our state. And we hope you have enjoyed this special edition of NC Spin that's been devoted entirely to the agriculture sector. We want to thank this wonderful panel for sharing so much information with us so generously. Now, next week we return to our regular format on NC Spin, so stay informed all during the week. Read our free weekly email newsletter, read my column, and give us your feedback. Visit our website, ncspin.com, or catch NC Spin on Facebook. And until such time as that, I always tell you, stay informed, watch out for the spin.
They're up before dawn and work late into the night. They believe in hard work, family, and doing the right thing. They stand up for their communities when others walk away. They're good people who just want a fair shake. They are farmers. At North Carolina Farm Bureau, we are proud to stand with our farmers.
Today's tools make you a real DIYer, and as a member of an electric cooperative, you have lots of valuable tools to help you do it yourself in controlling your home energy use and budget, leaving you free to be Dad.
Finding a North Carolina solution for covering the uninsured will reduce all our health care costs and lead to a healthier North Carolina. Let's find a solution for covering the uninsured. Visit careforcarolina.com.
Production underwriting provided by the North Carolina Academy of Family Physicians. Family Physicians, your trusted health care advisor for life.
North Carolina Channel is made possible by the financial contributions of viewers like you who support the UNC TV network.